Welcome to 2024 and Happy New Year. So welcome to the 5:30 p.m. January 9th, 2024 CRA meeting. We do have a quorum, so I'll call this meeting to order. Would you please join me in a moment of silence? And the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, would you please read the rules to speak?
Individuals wishing to speak on agenda items must complete a sign-up card prior to the item being introduced. Sign-up cards are available on the table. Individuals wishing to speak on non-agenda items may do so under petitions and requests. No sign-up card is required. Citizens will be given 3 minutes to speak on all agenda items. All sign-up cards and exhibits being submitted to the CRA shall be placed in the box on the table.
Welcome to the new year.
One bad apple in the bunch, and everybody else will. All right, it's all in knowing, right?
I'm not like that.
Hello?
Test.
Yep.
We're good.
Hi.
Oh. Thank you. Let me just, for documentation's sake, we have a motion and a second on approving the minutes from the CRA meeting of November 14th, I do believe it was. Yes, we do. All those in favor of accepting those minutes, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Say no.
Actually,
Minutes accepted.
it says December
City
12th.
manager.
December 12th?
Oh, we can do that too?
No, that's the only one.
Wow, I must have written it wrong, but I had that down. All right, we will do that again, December 12th, is that correct? Okay, accept the minutes of December 12th. All those in favor say yes. Opposed? And we re-accepted the 14th, I'm sure. Anyway, okay, city manager.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Vice Chair and CRA board members. We have no special recognition or presentations, no old business. We are on agenda item 8A, which is the draft comprehensive plan amendment to the future land use, transportation, and housing elements of the draft land development regulations. On November 28, 2023, City Council directed staff to schedule hearings to transmit the comprehensive plan amendments to the State Land Planning Agency for their review. The council specifically requested to retain the future land use element policy 1.2.4 related to the location of commercial development. Also included for the CRA's review are the draft changes to the downtown mixed-use zoning district regulations to implement the comprehensive plan amendments. And Mr. Parrish will go over those changes with you prior to us doing the transmittal hearings.
Mr. Parrish?
So again, tonight is not a transmittal hearing, it's not a public hearing, it's just We're here to present a portion of this larger project for you to get to the CRA to get your input before the actual scheduled hearings. Most of you attended and saw the various presentations from our consultant, Kimberly Horn, previously with Kane and Associates, present several concepts, ideas, and then from that created some amendment policy changes to amend our comprehensive plan, and then also a draft code, which we presented to you as well. So tonight, I'm just going to go over briefly just highlights of the portion of this project as related specifically to the downtown. So I included objective 1.10 of the existing comprehensive plan, future land use element, and also those policies relevant to the downtown in the transportation element and the housing element. If you remember, the elements are different chapters of our comprehensive plan. It really starts on page 15 of your packet. That first objective, 1.10, that's existing language, and you'll see what's stricken through and underlined is what's being proposed by our consultant. I'm going to go through, before I get any more in detail, I'm just going to list some terms you're going to hear as I explain this. You're going to hear the word placemaking. I think some of you have heard this several times from our consultant, and they're bringing that up. It's about trying to create a memorable area, the downtown, and how do you do that? And so the policies and strategies are supposed to help you create an area that is memorable, that people remember coming to when they come to the downtown. You'll hear the word urban design, and that's related to building orientation, placement of parking, where the front doors are really located, creating a true urban downtown area where you have a critical mass of buildings. Parking, you'll hear the term park once. What that really means is basically coming up with strategies for parking, for shared parking throughout the entire downtown that allows someone to be able to park once and be able to go to all the different services within the downtown without having to get in their vehicle to go to the next property, as you might find on our major commercial corridors. Incentives, you'll hear that too. There's a policy in here that the consultant has suggested with a list of policies and in the policy, a list of incentives that they are recommending be incorporated into our code rather, to foster redevelopment of properties. You'll hear the difference between what is shall or should. So the consultant has suggested some language in here that has the word shall in it, and that's kind of obligating the city to do something. So really you need to ask yourselves whether that is imperative or maybe change that word to should or encourage or something that we should consider. Density pool. Many of you remember the conversation about proposing a new calculation of how we determine density in the downtown. Currently, that's based on a property-by-property basis. The density pool that the consultant is suggesting in here is a pool, in other words, taking the entire acreage of the downtown sub-district primarily, and determining based on that acreage what your residential density is, or your pool is, basically. And so then a developer or a property owner can pull from that reservoir of residential units and put it on their property, as many as they possibly can on that, as long as they meet other design standards as well. The reasoning behind that is there is a lot of unusable residential density in the downtown. For example, City Hall is on a piece of property that has a residential density that can never be used unless this property is redeveloped, which I don't see that's going to happen. You see that too on publicly owned property throughout the city and other properties that are commercial that might not have a residential use. So the idea here is to allow some properties or some developers that they are able to feasibly put more than 30 units per acre on a piece of property, and then meet all the other design standards and engineering requirements and parking requirements that could possibly be done on that piece of property. Right now, the downtown has a maximum height requirement of 5 stories, and that can't really be achieved with 30 units per acre on a lot of properties. Another reason why we're bringing this up, we're proposing this, is because it will foster some redevelopment. The incentives that I mentioned earlier are tied to this density pool, so it's not a one-off. You're giving away as many units or allowing someone to put as many units from that pool onto their property. they would have to adhere to some criteria that's spelled out in one of the policies, which I'll identify here, and then will be carried over to the code as well. You'll hear the word significant, or the phrase significant green. I'll bring up Mariner's Way, and I'll also bring up the term primary pedestrian network. On page 15 of your packet, on that first objective, you'll see in the first sentence there called memorable identity. The second sentence, or the second line, it talks about critical mass. And then further down, it talks about downtown Titusville shall have a unique downtown mixed use. What all that is trying to say, and it's kind of written like a goal, but because of the structure of our comprehensive plan and the direction we received from council, they told us to take what we believe to be important from the draft 2040 Titusville Tomorrow plan and incorporate it into our current plan. And because of the way it's structured, we rephrase, with the help of the consultant, this particular objective reads like it's a goal. So it's some abstract language in there, but it can be achieved by implementing the policies and strategies that are identified later in this page. Throughout this objective, 1.10, and the subsequent policies, the consultant is suggesting several new strategies that currently do not exist, and you can see them written and underlined on that page 15 of your packet. On the bottom of that page, you'll see the term public realm under strategy, on the very last strategy there. Public realm refers to the public space, so the public right-of-way, basically, and everything involved with it. It could potentially be, it could probably spill out beyond the boundaries of the actual designated public right-of-way. It's just basically where the public gathers and can be using that public space. And that could be the road, the parking spaces, parallel spaces, sidewalks, anything else, or plazas. On the next page, page 16, that first strategy, the consultant is suggesting specific language related to City Hall. It states, maintain a robust presence of civic facilities downtown, including City Hall. The comprehensive plan refers to, right now, encouraging, that the city will encourage government facilities to be located in the downtown mixed-use land use category. That's what it says. It doesn't specifically call out City Hall. So this is a call that you'll have to determine whether that's appropriate or not, if we should be that specific. Further down on that same page, 16, you'll see strategy, the last strategy there. It's 1.10.2.4. That's the incentives. You'll see in bullet form the incentives the consultant is suggesting. The consultant is suggesting that these incentives shall be put into the code in some format in order to allow for the ability for us to negotiate with a developer or property owner to redevelop a piece of property, to allow them to have increased density on their property, provided they include these certain types of elements that are identified here, which will be fleshed out in more detail in the code. I'll stop at any time you have questions. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Fred, just a question, you mentioned it, but the maximum height we can go right now is 5 floors?
Yes, sir. 5 stories.
5 stories.
Correct.
And if that's inhibiting us from doing some things, for us to change a lot of this, we're going to have to change the rules to go more than 5 stories?
Yes, sir. The 5 stories is not achievable because of the maximum density requirement of 30 units per acre.
Okay, all right. Now, the other one is that, how are we going, on page 16, down at the bottom of the page, I always like, my eyes are always caught to the word affordability and workforce, because I thought that they were doing some of that with the new bank design, that was supposed to be kind of the workforce housing for the individuals that may be coming out of the Space Center and so forth. Is that correct? Those are apartments, aren't they, in that, when they reconfigure?
You're talking about the old Cafe Chocolat building, and how it was refurnished?
Yeah, right there by the old bank, I don't.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what you're talking
it's
about.
That
expensive.
chocolate?
Yes, those are the second and third floor were converted into apartments. I'm
Right.
not aware of them being restricted, but with affordable housing units, though.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Member Nelson?
Brad, I have a problem. To me, when I say shall in this, it means we have to do it. No question. So right now we shall do tax increments, recapture programs, dedicated easements, participate in constructing, all these kind of things. And then over here it says, we shall develop a citywide park and greenway plan to link greenways, trails, and park systems, and then link them to other trails, other state parks, and conservation areas. And some of what she's putting in here, I just look at it and go, that's a goal. I mean, I'd like to get there, but I don't really like the idea of the word shall being in there.
Okay.
Because to me, and Richard and I talked about this earlier, shall to an attorney means you don't have a choice. This is what you will do. So when she put shall in, I
Changes
start
it.
getting nervous.
So what she's saying is this shall be defined in the code. So that obligates the city to come up with some kind of provision in the code that addresses these particular incentives. And then it allows us to have the flexibility to impose them in some way, or do we use them as tools to work in negotiation with developers?
Or you could change it to say incentives may be established.
Okay.
And
As you said,
that
should or
way
shall.
make it not quite sound like it's something we're required to do. I went through the whole thing and pulled out like where it was saying shall. City Hall has to be here, government offices have to be here. And, you know, they're all great ideas, but in the real world, I'm not sure how practical they are.
Okay.
Or how achievable they are. So to me, those are the things that need to be taken out.
And the last time she was here, we talked, and there were some concerns from the citizens present, and I kind of made it clear that these are goals and visions, and she agreed. And so I would piggyback on to Member Nelson and say I like the goal and vision idea where it becomes necessary to say shall, we need to be aware of it, but I think we should be using shall sparingly
Okay.
in a very limited manner, because as I said, and I thought that that's how we kind of agreed, because I was very impressed with her vision and with her goals. But when you start putting shall with those visions and goals, yeah, you know, it gets a little more sticky. So, you know, just something to think about. Any, Member Ball?
Yes, sir. I have a question, but first I'd say I agree with that, and what would be useful is to have staff's recommendation to us, or at least highlight the areas where you have a feeling that shall is maybe the appropriate word, but otherwise, the default might be to something a little bit softer for planning flexibility and for
Right.
policy flexibility, that sort of thing.
Great.
So the question I had related, I really like the idea of the density pool. And this may be too far down in the weeds, but the question is, if you have a residential development that underutilizes its allowable density in the current scheme, does that underutilized capacity fall into the pool? Somebody chooses not to, or for whatever reason, that particular development is, maybe it's mixed use and they're got a residential component and it's lower than the number of residential units that they would have been allowed. I didn't know if you captured that unused capacity into the pool.
So if your concern is that over time we're not monitoring this and that we may run out of residential units in that pool, I don't think that concern is there. I don't think it's realistic because the growth rate in the downtown has been a lot less than the city overall. So the number of residential units in the downtown have increased at a much slower rate than you see in the rest of the city. So the density pool is just not going to be eaten up that quickly. And even if it does, it's something you would evaluate during your EAR process or an amendment to the comprehensive plan anyway. I'll give you an example. Cafe Chocolat building could not convert that hotel into residential units. until we amended the comprehensive plan to increase the residential density from 20 units to 30 units. But by doing that, all we did was allow them to have 2 extra residential units in their property. But now we increased it by 10 throughout the entire district as a result to accommodate one property. So I don't know if you're going to see a big chunk eaten out in a quick time, but it's something you want to monitor as part of your comprehensive plan evaluation with every cycle anyway.
Member Cole?
In reading through it, some of the nomenclature that she puts in there is a little bit hard to understand, is somewhat visceral as I see it. And I think if they can make it a little more readable, I totally agree with shall, because I noticed there's one section in here that says something about shall provide a structure to keep on-surface parking. That means that we have to provide a parking garage, I'm assuming, and it says we shall do it. It's in the transportation section, I think. And those are the kinds of things that I'm sure that Jolene is alluding to with the shall, because there's a lot of shalls in there.
Okay.
And shall kind of bothers me a little bit also. But I'm thinking some of the nomenclature, and I took courses in city planning, and we didn't, maybe that was a long time ago, but 5 years ago, yeah. We didn't have, confusing nomenclature. If you read it, I shouldn't read this and have to ask, or you shouldn't have to give me definitions of various things that are said in there. So I think if we can kind of clean that up a little bit and really look and get your recommendations on things that say shall, because everything that says shall is going to cost us money.
I believe.
Most of them.
No, I understand. I believe you're referring to, in the transportation element, about coming up with transportation strategies such as park once.
Yes.
That's what,
Yes,
okay.
that's what I'm referring
So
to.
that's asking us that we need to come up with strategies. It's not obligating us to come up with any particular strategy.
Okay.
It's asking us, it's telling us that we need to come up with a plan, basically, for a long-term parking strategy for the city. So that's,
So it's not telling us that we shall provide that. It's saying we shall look at it. Is that what you're saying?
so solutions that reduce demand for service parking shall be implemented, including shared parking,
Shall be
connectivity.
the plan should be implemented, or the facility should be
The
implemented?
plan should be implemented with strategies. So we're supposed to come up with the policy, or the strategy is asking us to look at this and come up with tools or programs that help reduce or accommodate parking in the downtown, not just parking spaces, but all the strategies together. So I can understand the confusion with that. That's something we probably need to revise to be
Yeah.
more plain.
Okay. I'm just saying it needs to be in plain language, and I think we need to take a real good, hard look at shall.
Okay.
Okay.
Member Stokel?
Yep, thank you. I guess my question has to do with, so if we have these comp plan changes, does this hold any weight as far as what staff will be able to do, or do we still have to pass ordinances that would speak to this? So, for instance, the density pool. So say we passed it as is, would you all be able to go and implement a plan that would be absent from passing an ordinance? Because then that the answer determines what direction I think we should go in with this and the word shall and everything else.
So the consultant did suggest a complementary change to the code. On page 27 of your packet, I've included just a portion of the code they proposed that is relevant to the downtown that would help implement these particular objectives and policies that I'm describing here tonight. And so if these amendments are transmitted to the state, our intention was to continue working on the code portion of this.
Okay.
Because the city council's direction initially with this was that they wanted to see the whole package at the end. All the amendments and the code changes, they want to see how it all going to look together, how it's all going to be work together, basically. So as the state is reviewing this, we hope to, when we get their comments back, we'll have our final version of a working draft of that code. And then we can put it all together and bring it to you so you can consider whether you want to adopt it together or not.
Okay, so to that point then, what are your thoughts on, since there's some concern about the word shall, like with the density pool. What if we just had in there, we cut some of it and some of that, the more specifics went into our code portion. So our comp plan is saying that we're encouraging and we'll utilize incentives to encourage this downtown density pool. So that's in our comp plan. And then we have an ordinance that aligns with that, that explains what that would entail.
I see.
Does that make sense?
I think the calculation of density probably needs to be prescribed inside the comp plan first. And then
Okay.
from there, we can further describe and come up with specifics and regulations, details of how that'll be implemented in the
Okay.
code. But I think I think you're referring to page 17 of your packet, the first strategy there, and that's talking about that density pool for the downtown. And that complements the previous page, the incentives. So it's strategy 1.10 to 4 and 5 work together. It's the incentives and the density pool. And I think that you have to have some general statement inside your comprehensive plan about the density and how that's calculated, I would think. Then you'd use your code to help implement it with more details.
So, for instance, there it says significant public benefits shall be defined in the LDRs. So if there's an issue with the word shall, what else would you suggest putting there? If it will stay in the comp plan, I guess.
I think what Ms. Nelson's already suggested is maybe changing that to may be established. And then allow some flexibility as to which, in the future, when you come up with your code, you can pick and choose which of these bullets might be appropriate, or even more.
Okay, so may be defined, so somebody, an applicant can't go to this and say, well, it's in the comp plan here that it may be one of these, but then our code would say where it's actually more clearly defined. Does that make sense?
Yes, so for example, utilizing incentive increment capture programs, for example. We currently have that in the CRA plan to consider that. It's not really spelled out very well in the code. What the consultant is suggesting is that you include this in code as an incentive with that density increase so that you can, if you flesh out the details of how that program will work, that allows you some tools to be able to work with the developer, say, well, if you want this much density, these are the things, or we want to encourage you to have more density or revitalize a piece of property. These are the things we'll allow you to do. So
Okay.
it's really, the comprehensive plan is that high-level policy guide, it's that statement, these are the things we think are important, and then it's a code is where you go into to come up with the specifics and how that's going to work.
Okay, thank you.
Member Nelson?
So question, the Amtrak station
I'm sorry?
is talking about we shall be responsible for maintaining the station, the Amtrak station.
Can you point me to which strategy or line? Or,
It's policy 1.5.3.2.
oh, 1.5 of the, I'm sorry, are
Page
you,
24,
or page, what page of the packet again?
24.
24? Okay. That is an existing policy.
That's an existing policy.
Yes, ma'am.
What are our chances of getting an Amtrak station?
Again, think of the
mean-
comp plan as a long-term plan. That may be 10, 20, who knows, 30 years from now. But as you continue to amend and evaluate your plan, you always want to consider, do you want to keep this policy, revise it,
Yeah,
or do you want
I
something
I
else?
get that.
Okay,
I didn't know either, just so you know. But I get that.
okay, and then objective 1.7, it talks about a circulation system shown on the map attached, or shown on the map adopted, but there's no map.
I can forward that to you. That's existing language, and that's
Okay.
referring to transit circulator systems that are illustrated on a map that was submitted to the state as part of this comp plan originally.
Okay. Is it like the map for the buses?
I would think so. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then, last question, when I'm looking at section 28-37,
Oh, the code now.
the code,
Okay, what page
Yeah.
are you on?
page 34, is saying that after the US 1 is improved, and the city becomes a dense urban land area, we could waive the traffic impact report and allow a deferment of the fees. Do we want to do that?
That's existing language in the code. That is
Okay.
referring to a dense urban land area. That was something that was adopted by the legislature probably more than 10 years ago, related to, and I think then it was to allow, I thought it was related to DRIs, Development of Regional Impacts. And it was used to identify those particular dense urban areas in the state that do not necessarily have to impose or utilize the DRI program anymore.
So that would be sort of like Orlando,
I'm sorry?
sort of like Orlando is a dense urban area.
We are considered a dense urban land area as well, according to the state, yes. Our MSA, our Metropolitan Statistical Area, which includes Brevard County, is considered an urban area.
Okay, we learned something new. Thank you.
Member Robinson, Vice Mayor.
Yes, Brad, I'm still trying to catch up, because I think, I'm thinking more, this is the whole, when we send this to Tallahassee, when we send it, this is to hold us in compliance, and we want them to agree with us that we're going to follow these guidelines. Is that correct?
The state is going to review this to determine whether it has an impact to a state interest,
Okay.
which is
I
loosely
understand that.
defined by the state. So unless there is a real impact to a state facility, I don't anticipate any objections from the state with these
Well,
amendments.
I understand. We're not looking for them to say yay or nay on most of it, but it gives them a guideline on how we're going to do business in the future.
Yes.
That's what I'm seeing here. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Member Stokel.
Yep, I don't know if this one was mentioned yet, but on page 19, another shall, strategy 1.10.6.1, the land development code shall identify sub-districts. Could that one just say may identify?
I think what the consultant was trying to get at is to reflect the existing zoning sub-districts that we have in our zoning code. This strategy may not be necessary.
Okay, I
Okay.
just I didn't necessarily like that shall.
Okay.
I think
All
that's all I
right,
have.
we will move forward. Back to you. I think we've answered everything. Or asked everything.
On page 18 of your packet, you'll see the last major things I really want to bring up. And that's strategy 1.10.4.2, 3, and 4. And if you remember from the concept plans or drawings that the consultants proposed or presented at a series of meetings with the public and with you, they tried to identify areas that the downtown could find for a green space, an activity area. One first attempt was the ALF building that's owned by HUD, or I'm sorry, the federal feds over there on the water as a waterfront property, but there might be other opportunities they looked at. From that point, they decided to look at Mariner Way and that parking area and seeing if that could be revitalized in some way as a green space that's adjacent to the downtown as an activity area, similar to what you see in some other downtowns around the state of Florida. A third one that they identified was Palm Avenue. Remember, they showed you several concepts of Palm Avenue and what could be, basically. And from that, it kind of informed their recommendations as to how to amend the policies inside this comp plan and the code changes to come up with. So these particular three strategies here, we could revise these if you don't believe that they should be this specific. But basically what they're asking the city to do is to continue to look for a significant green space opportunity, wherever that might be, next to the downtown. To consider Mariners Way, that parking area, that commons area, as a green space potentially. And to maybe not consider, maybe Palm is not the right place, but maybe find some other primary road that is city-owned that could be another or adjacent to Main Street, as right now our major thoroughfare is that segment of US 1 in the historic downtown. Maybe there's another area that's a great opportunity. So that's what the consultant was really getting at with these particular three strategies. So if you are inclined to adopt these, we will utilize these in future planning efforts, including updates to the CRA plan. Or if you'd like us to make these more general, we can certainly do that as well.
Member Nelson?
I would like to see it more general. And part of my reasoning is I think you're going to get a lot of pushback from the merchants if we try to take Mariner's Way off the table or put it on the table. However, if we are talking about the theater becoming a destination, then it would make more sense to me to use Palm Avenue as a destination. Even the Julia Street parking lot could be used as a destination green space. I think you could make that really pretty. But that would require us finding extra parking. But I'd like to see it more general so that if that happens, we can move that way. Oh. Okay.
Well,
Oh, boy. Those tornado warning.
tornado warning, which means there's a tornado.
Warning and a watching.
Watch means there could be. Warning means Brevard
There's
County.
one.
When it says Brevard County, that could be anywhere 97 miles.
Yeah.
City manager, can you go outside and see what you? All right.
So anyway, I'd like to see it more general.
I know.
Yeah.
We're in a pretty strong building, so we'll hold tight. I feel the same way, and again, the specific talk about the green spaces, I think is exactly where she and I came together on great vision. Let's not get too specific. And I think, you just don't want to put yourself in a corner. And I think that's what we're all kind of saying up here. The word shall puts us in a corner. And again, the goals and vision is what we're seeing here. And then I think we develop it as we go forward. And being a little bit more broad makes it a little easier. Member Aker?
Yeah, I was okay with how it was stated in there, because they're identifying specific areas to look at. It's not a commitment
Yeah,
that says,
that's true.
we're going to do something here. But, there's some creative people out there. There's some space behind the Babcock building. I always looked at that and said, God, why don't we put a movie theater out here, one day a week? There's some green space there that could be utilized, so
Yeah.
I think they're just putting it there and say, these are they really are the only spaces that we have. And, maybe we tower the parking in that area, part of that, and we open up some green space. So I
No, I
don't
agree.
really have much trouble.
I agree, and I don't disagree. I don't have much trouble. I just think I'm trying to get an underlying tone of, let's not get too specific to where citizens are saying, well, you said this and you didn't do that. And so, yeah. Member Stokel?
Yep. Yeah, I don't think I really had much issue with it, just the way it's worded. It doesn't make me believe that we're going to take anything away from that area. What I don't want to lose is, I think, this idea to try to enhance the downtown area. And that's what I see from this. I see what you're saying with Palm and the theater, but I really like the idea of being closer to the water, especially as we're going to get that bridge connecting the two parks. I really feel like if we do this correctly or do something, we may end up being able to give more citizens like access to those businesses right now, and then maybe enhance the parking as we get creative and start to develop something. I feel like we're moving in that right direction, and I feel like once things start to align and the dominoes hit, I feel like we could have something really great to offer the citizens and our residents that would enhance people coming to the downtown more frequently, and then businesses being able to thrive and have ongoing traffic. And that's what I would like to see. I know the parking situation there. I go every time it's difficult to find parking, and I've said it numerous times up here. I wish we had more parking in the downtown area. And I'd like to move in that direction eventually. So I'm okay with it. Or if we want to make it more general, I just don't want to lose sight of us focusing on that.
And I'm sitting here and going back and forth and kind of directing the show. I really like hearing what I'm hearing. A little bit of the word shall is a concern. I think that, Member Aker tossing out there that little open space over there. And I just think that we're on the right page. And hearing all of this has kind of put us back together where we're supposed to be. So I'm pretty excited about it. So Brad, go ahead.
That's all I had. If you have any more questions, any specific questions, any
And
other
we'll go
policy
that way.
strategies?
Member Ball.
Yeah, I think, just since you're looking for input, as you're still in the process of working the downtown mixed-use smart code, different standards and development, potential development regulation provisions that would go into that. I would encourage staff to look at the, some of the vision concepts. Palm's a good example, and consider the challenges of incremental implementation. Because you have say you have a new development come in on Palm somewhere along there, and we're all chomping at the bit to begin to realize the vision, and it's got all these standards and, okay, well, setbacks from the center line of the road, this, that, and the other thing, canopy trees. So you win on that 100 feet or couple of 100 feet because the developer says, okay, it's in your code, I got to do it. But you're years away from all the rest of it, or you've got government buildings like down where the county building is and that sort of thing, and they're not going to jump on, let's go put shade tree, give up part of our parking for the county courthouse to comply with this. They're not required to comply with it. So I'm concerned we get a partial implementation of a good idea that then looks really weird because you're not ever going to accomplish the entire thing, or it's going to be problematic. The churches, a lot of other obstacles to doing it all in one fell swoop. So I'm just going to encourage you to consider that outcome so we don't have unintended consequences about downtown mixed-use smart code requirements that can't necessarily achieve the vision that we all maybe embrace because of implementation challenges.
Member Cole.
I totally agree with Mayor Diesel about making it in a general nature, it be guidelines for future. It gives us a flexibility for future city councils to make those kinds of decisions. It gives them that flexibility rather than tying their hands and says, you've got to do this. But these are guidelines that we will follow. And it's an excellent document.
Yep.
But I think it should be as guidelines for us to follow, and as city council, if we have that flexibility, I think we're going to try our best to do the right thing.
I see that as a very solid, well-thought-out, in-depth presentation. I think the comments from council, as I said earlier, were varied and well thought out as well. I feel pretty good about what I just heard. And again, as noted, presentation, I think we've done our part and given our input.
And to close this agenda item out, just as the transmittal public hearing will be held at your next regular city council meeting, which is 23rd of January, 2024.
Okay, thank you.
On to item B, which is the Community Redevelopment Agency Grant Program Evaluation Criteria. CRA grants and policies and procedures were last updated in 2018. Staff is requesting advisability to evaluate the grant policies, procedure program criteria, and evaluation criteria, and bring back recommendations and any changes, if any.
As I understood it in our meeting, City Manager, we were really trying to get more folks involved, more people taking advantage of the grants. That, for sure, excited me. First of all, it says that we are prepared financially to get more people involved and get more grants out there. And the second thing is, I appreciated the fact that staff and we, I'm sure, are trying to get more people grants as needed to work on the downtown. So I just want to get that set out there first. I don't know how everybody else feels, but I got the feeling we're all pretty excited about expanding that. Member Stokel.
Yeah, I guess my question was going to be more for staff on if you've seen any citizens coming in or potential applicants. When I was going over this with my briefing, I was very excited about it because I want to see more people taking
Right.
advantage of it. I feel like a lot of people are coming to Florida, a lot of people are coming to Brevard, a lot of people are coming to Titusville now. And if we have the funds available, I think there's a lot more hesitation on starting up a business or trying to open something up. We have a lot of housing projects going on. But now I think would be a good time to kind of get more action in our downtown, but I don't know what the need is as far as somebody that would want to apply for a grant. What I don't want to see happen is where we're providing funds for things that would be an ongoing expense. So I would be in favor of maybe waiving certain fees or applying grants for that infrastructure, but I don't know, I guess, the specifics of what that would be, what that would look like and what would help the citizens the most. And that's where I would want more of staff's guidance, I guess, on it, on what they're seeing citizens really need that wouldn't be an ongoing cost. That was mine.
Good, good. Vice Mayor?
Yes. My question would be is, as we look back and use that as experience, what has been the most restrictive in our requirement that has caused the people to turn away? I.e., the requirement for being eligible for it? Is it the requirement for the dollars that are available because of the expenses that's gone up? Are we limiting to whether it's exterior or interior effect that we support? So if we can look back and see what, what people have asked for over the recent years, and what has been restricting them or restricting us, or it has to be brought to us for maybe changing this or tweaking that and address those issues. Okay.
Member Stokel?
Sorry to add on to it. Also, I can't remember where we are with the grease traps, but if there's something we can do, I know we've heard that
I
before
agree.
up here. So
I'm glad you
that's
said that.
something that I know that citizens have needed help with.
Grease trap. Yeah, I don't, clearly I didn't have the answer for that one several times. Anything else from staff on that? Yeah, is that enough input?
That's great.
All right, I think we met that one as well, City Manager.
Petitions and requests?
Petitions or requests? Rodney, I thought you got here just in time for that, sir. No? Okay. City Manager.
On to the Executive Director's report, I'd like to make a few highlights in addition to the written report. There, you see a lot of construction equipment in and around the CRA right now. Majority of that equipment is for the Force Main project that goes from South Street Lift Station up to the Osprey plant. That's scheduled to be finished by early summer, so that's going to be an ongoing construction project for quite some time. The Sandpoint Park, you'll see an excavator out there and some equipment as the entranceway off of Indian River Avenue. That's the baffle box project that you approved a while ago. And this particular baffle box installation will also be an educational baffle box so that you can actually see within the baffles of how it's working. So we're pretty excited about that. The Spaceview Park Observation Walkway Pier, they will mobilize probably this week, the end of this week. So you'll see a barge out there, and that construction project will begin, and that will be about a 3 to 4 month project. Sue went and took a tour of the Launch Now apartments. There's 7 to 8 apartments that are already occupied. There's still construction going on the ground floor. I'll let her talk about it, but it's very exciting. It's very well done. I know it was a long project, and I think the general contractor said he'll never do that ever again. But I'll let Sue talk about that. But it's very exciting, and you do see a lot more foot traffic, a lot more lights on in that area at night. So, Sue.
We were very excited. I was very excited to take the tour. I had looked up some of the previous pictures from the beginning. There are 7 rented. There's a total of 20 apartments. One is furnished. They're going to see how that goes if that rents out. But so they can show empty and then also the furnished. The downstairs, you still have the bank vault with the chandelier and the bank and the staircase. So we've got pictures of that. You'll see that in your annual report. That's definitely a success story for the CRA and the partnerships involved. They're excited. They did get paid out on the interior. The exterior has not been paid out. The only remaining challenge, or what it has to be done, is the landscaping, and they have to get the spouting correct. We won't put in landscaping there until the spout is corrected. So that's the only thing. So that is a huge success story for the CRA.
Awesome.
And my last is on your table, you were given this. This is the next Titusville Tomorrow update, which will be held on Monday, January 29th at 414 Pine Street, which I think is the church, St. Gabriel's Episcopal Church. And the doors open at 4:30 and the event begins at 5. And light refreshments will be provided by Chef Brad.
All right, Chef Brad.
Subject to your questions.
I always say council board, any questions or things?
What are the refreshments?
What?
We need to know what the refreshments are.
No, we don't, running out of time. Member Ball?
Just before we run out of time, and I know maybe you've got this planned for comment during city council meeting, so I don't intend to preempt that, but today is National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. So on behalf of myself as a CRA member, I'd like to express my appreciation to our men and women in uniform in our police department, and to thank them for the community policing that the CRA benefits from their service. So thank you.
Absolutely. Well done. We were going to say it later, but now we're not. No. All right, with that, we will, well,
For 3 minutes.
yeah, let's go to 25 till. That's a little bit fast. 25 till, we'll start the next meeting adjourned.